Hello, my lovely girls, how are you? I'm teacher Arwa, and this class is for the 8th grade. Okay, today is Thursday. The date is the 5th of November 2020. Today, we are going to start with page number 16 from the action pack. Page number 16, which is the section of reading. The section of reading. Okay, let's read this article and understand it together. Okay. The title is, who can tell me, who can read the title? Who can read the title? Yes, Lana. Writing from around the world. Excellent. Writing from around the world. Writing is gerund. Writing gerund from around the world. حول العالم، يعني الكتابة من حول العالم. We want to read about writing عن الكتابة. Okay? يلا, let's read together. Listen carefully to me. People started writing thousands of years ago. At first, they wrote records of local trade. Of what? Local trade. Local means محلي. It's an adjective. Write it. Local, this is local, means محلي. محلي, and it's an adjective. Local trade. Trade means تجارة. Trade means تجارة. Trade, it's a noun. Okay? Let's continue. So again, people started writing thousands of years ago. So when people start to write, when, متى? People started writing thousands of years ago. At first, how did they start writing? About what? That they start writing عن شو بدأوا يكتبوا? About they started to write records, تسجيلات of local trade, التجارة المحلية. Okay. This kind of writing wasn't for entertaining an audience in the way stories and poems are. So, this kind of writing, this kind هذا النوع, it's a noun. This kind of writing here is a gerund. It ends with ing without helping verb. تنتهي ب ing without helping verb, without verb to be, we call it gerund. So writing here is a gerund, هو مصدر. This kind of writing wasn't for entertaining. يعني لم يكن للتسلية. Entertaining means التسلية. Entertaining means التسلية. It's also a gerund. Entertaining. Okay. It wasn't for entertaining an audience. لم يكن لتسلية المستمعين. Audience means مستمع. It's a noun. So it wasn't for entertaining an audience in the way stories and poems are. In the way that stories and poems are. So what was entertaining? Stories and poems. Stories and poems, like stories قصص, and poems هو القصائد. They were entertaining. كانوا ممتعين ومسليين to listen for, لأنك تستمعهم. But local trade writing, الكتابات that about local trade متعلقة بالتجارة المحلية wasn't for entertaining. لم تكن للتسلية. Okay? So entertaining means التسلية. It's a gerund. And an audience means المستمع in the way that stories and poems are. Poems means قصائد. Okay. Let's move to paragraph number 2. People told stories and poems for entertainment around the world before writing existed. So people told stories and poems before entertainment around the world, before writing existed. Okay? People told stories and poems for entertainment. Entertainment means Entertainment means التسلية. It's a noun. Entertainment, it ends with E-M-E-N-T. It ends with mint. The words that ends with mint, they are nouns. Okay? Nouns. Okay? Okay. Poems, plural, nouns. Okay, what else? What else? Audience, noun. Writing and entertaining, writing, gerund. Gerund, okay? Okay. So people told stories and poems for entertainment and تسلية around the world before writing existed. So they were telling stories, they were saying poems, كانوا بيحكوا قصص and قصائد before writing existed. يعني قبل ما تظهر الكتابة. existed verb to, existed verb to. قبل ما تتواجد means existed means تواجدت قبل ما تتواجد in writing. Okay, so they were what? They were telling stories and poems for each other. For what? In order to entertain each other. حتى يسلوا بعضهم البعض. Okay. Africa, let's continue. Africa has long story of storytelling. Storytelling means سرد القصص. Storytelling, it's a gerund. Storytelling means سرد القصص, and also it's what? It's a gerund. The most famous African stories are about little animals. So we are now talking about what? We are now talking about African stories. Okay, African stories. So Africa has long history of storytelling. Africa has long history of storytelling. History يعني تاريخ قوي أو تاريخ طويل of storytelling في سرد القصص. History noun. Okay, I'm going to send you all the meanings to write them. But now just focus with me and listen carefully. Africa has a long history of storytelling. The most famous African is an adjective. African adjective يعني شيء إفريقي. We are describing it. African stories are about little animals. So the most famous African stories was about what? Was about little animals that use their intelligence. Intelligence means what does intelligence means? Who can tell me? Intelligence means what? الذكاء. Okay? Intelligence, it's a noun. So these stories talk about what? Talk about little animals that use their intelligence. بيستخدموا ذكائهم for what? To survive. Survive means to stay alive. To survive, it's a verb. To survive against bigger animals. Bigger what? It's what? Bigger animals. لو حكينا biggest superlative تفضيل. أما bigger, it's a comparative مقارنة. Add an adjective that ends with er. صفة بتنتهي ب er. It's a comparative مقارنة. مثلا أحمد is taller than Maha is clever than Ahmed. Okay, like that. So little animals, these stories were talking about little animals, حيوانات صغيرة that what? That used their intelligence, استخدمت ذكائها to survive, حتى تبقى على قيد الحياة, to stay alive against the bigger animals, ضد الحيوانات الأكبر that may eat them, اللي ممكن إنها تأكلهم, تتغذى عليهم. Okay. These stories were told from person to person before written copies. So I'm gonna ask a question. How did the stories in the past move from generations? how did it move from one generation to another generation. كيف انتقلت عبر الأجيال أو how did they move. By person to person. How? By person to person. So a person told a story, and he told it to another person. Another person told it to another person. Okay, in this way. I am telling a story to my friend. My friend tells her friend the story, and my friend's friend tells another person the story. So this is how stories spread around the world. Okay, so from person to person, that stories have been told. Okay, before the written copies. Look here, before the written copies. So before the written copies of stories, written means here adjective. written adjective يعني مكتوبة. قبل ما يكون عنا written copies of stories يعني القصص المكتوبة، نسخ مكتوبة. copies يعني نسخ. It's a plural noun. Okay. People used to send the stories from person to person. Okay, from person to person. Okay, before written copies were ever made. قبل ما تكون النسخ المكتوبة للقصص موجودة. Okay. Writing has used to tell stories across the Middle East. Before it was used anywhere else in the world. Some of the earliest pieces of literature came from the Middle East. These stories travel around the world because the writer's skills were so impressive. Reading stories from around the world helped writers to develop their skills by learning from each other over the centuries. Okay. So, writing was used to tell stories across the Middle East. So after that people used to tell each other stories from person to person. Stories were written. Okay, stories were written in papers or in books. So stories were written in copies. Okay, so writing helped the stories to what? Writing was used to tell stories across the Middle East. Okay, so writing was used to tell stories across the Middle East. What's the meaning of Middle East? Middle East, الشرق الأوسط. So in the Middle East, stories were writing. كان يتم كتابة القصص عبر الكتابة. Okay. Before it was used anywhere else in the world. So, some of the earliest pieces of literature. What's the meaning of earliest? Earliest يعني الأقدم. Superlative. It's a superlative adjective that ends with est. Earliest. Tallest. Okay? So when we see an adjective that ends with est, it's a superlative, تفضيل. So some of the earliest pieces of literature. What's the meaning of literature? Literature means الأدب. إذا من أقدم يعني الأعمال الأدبية that were in the Middle East came from where? Came from the Middle East. So the Middle East has the earliest pieces of literature. بالشرق الأوسط كان هناك أقدم الأعمال الأدبية. Literature means الأدب. Okay. يعني literature means written art. زي فن أو أدب written art بس إنه هو بيكون مكتوب. We call it literature الأدب. We can read it. Okay? We enjoy it by reading. We learn it by reading. بنستمتع فيه وبنتعلم من خلاله through reading and understanding. Okay? Okay. These stories traveled around the world because the writer's skills were so impressive. So here we are talking about stories that belong to the Middle East. القصص اللي بتتعلق بالميدل إيست بالشرق الأوسط. They what? They traveled around the world. They traveled around the world. Why? Why did they travel around the world? Because the writer's skills يعني مهارات الكتاب that wrote these stories اللي كتبوا هاي القصص were so impressive. Were so impressive, something so attractive, something that so very beautiful and good, something that attract you, something that attract you يعني بيجذبك. Okay, so their skills مهاراتهم, their skills, we are talking about the writers الكتاب that wrote the stories that belongs to the Middle East. Their skills were so impressive to everyone around the world. So that's why the stories traveled around the world. Everyone enjoyed them around the world. Everyone just read them and wrote things like them. Okay. Reading stories around the world helped writers to develop their skills by learning from each other over the centuries. So this is why it is very important to read someone is culture, people, sculptors and writers, to know about their writers and stories and poems. So it's very important for people to read from around the world. Why is it important to read from around the world? So I am reading an African stories, or I am reading French literature, about their French literature. Why is it important for me? ليش مهم إني أنا أقرأ من حضارات العالم جميعه? Because that helped in what? That helped people of developing their skills. ساعدهم بإيش؟ بتطوير مهاراتهم in writing. Okay? So when I read for someone else, when I read for another language, when I read for another culture, when I read for another countries is poems and literature, I learn something new from them, right? I learn something new. بتعلم شيء جديد من مهاراتهم, من تاريخهم, من عاداتهم وتقاليدهم. Okay? Their ways of writing, من الطريقة اللي بيكتبوا فيها. So that helped people. So reading stories from around the world helped writers, ساعدوا الناس to develop, حتى يطوروا أو ينموا. Develop, it's a verb, يطور. To develop their skills plural now, مهارات, by learning. Learning here a gerund, by learning from each other over the centuries. Centuries means حضارات أو قرون. Centuries means قرون. Centuries means قرون. It's a plural noun. Okay. So again, reading stories from around the world helped writers to develop their skills by learning from each other over the centuries. Okay. The last two sentences. Many people believe that reading stories from different times and places is a way of understanding and appreciating the variety that exists between cultures. So also, many people believe that. So when I say believe يعني يعتقد. Okay? We call them the verbs of opinions. يعني هي بتكون الأفعال that we say it when we want to discuss or we want to explain about our opinions. هاي الأفعال بنستخدمها لما بدنا نعبر عن آرائنا. Like I think I feel, I believe, these verbs, okay? So many people believe that reading stories from different times and places, reading stories from different times يعني من أوقات مختلفة، من قرون مختلفة، أزمنة مختلفة، and places أماكن, is a way of understanding gerund and appreciating يعني understanding فهم, appreciating تقدير, okay, appreciating the variety, تقدير variety means تنوع. variety, it's what? It's a noun. Variety means التنوع. So when I read stories from different times and places, I understand and appreciate, أنا بقدر وبفهم the variety, التنوع that exists. الموجود, exists means الموجود, exists, verb 1, exists between cultures. I understand, أنا بفهم and appreciate, بقدر the variety, التنوع that exists between cultures, التنوع الموجود بين الحضارات الحضارات والأماكن المختلفة. أوكي، العادات والتقاليد والحضارات. أوكي، the variety between them, الاختلافات between them أو التنوع. Okay, so we have finished the article. The article talks about what? Talks about writing from around the world, and also reading writings from around the world. يعني قراءة الكتابات من مختلف أنحاء العالم. Okay, so people before writing exists, they were what? They were wrote records, كانوا بيكتبوا records of local trades, عن التجارة المحلية. Okay, this kind of writing, هذا نوع هذا الكتابة wasn't for entertaining, لم يكن للتسلية. Okay, not like the stories and poems are. Okay, so and we have talked about Africa, the famous African stories about what? African stories was about what? Were about little animals. كان بيتكلم عن little animals that use their intelligence بيستخدموا ذكائهم, intelligence, to survive, to stay alive against the bigger animals, the dangerous bigger animals. These stories were told from person to person. At first, stories were told from person to person. Then after then they were what? They were written in copies. Okay, تم نسخهم وكتابتهم على نسخ معينة. Writing was used to tell stories across the Middle East, and we have talked about the Middle East, الشرق الأوسط, and their stories were so impressive, كانت so impressive, attracted people from the world. Why? Because their writers, كتابهم, their writers have skills, have good skills, كان عندهم مهارات جيدة in writing. So people learned from them, تعلموا منهم their skills. Okay, so reading stories from around the world helped writers to develop their skills. ساعدتهم إنه قراءة القصص from around the world helped them to develop their skills. This is the most important thing in the article. Reading stories from around the world helped writers to develop their skills by learning from each other over centuries. Okay. Many people believe that reading stories from different times and places also a way of understanding, حتى نفهم, and appreciating, نقدر the variety that exists between cultures, الاختلافات بين cultures. Okay. Now, let's move to exercise number 3. Find these words in the text and guess their meanings. Okay. The first one is entertainment. We have said entertainment means التسلية, and it's a noun, entertainment. Who can tell me? Entertainment يا Sally means studies ولا understanding or fun? Entertainment means تسلية. Studies or understanding or fun. Excellent. It's fun. Number C. Okay. Number 2. Intelligence. Intelligence, يا سارة. Intelligence means ذكاء. Okay, and it's also a noun. Intelligence means cleverness, physical strength or speed. Speed means سرعة. Physical strength means يعني القوة الجسدية. Cleverness means الذكاء. صح؟ So intelligence as the same of cleverness. Excellent يا سارة. Number 1, cleverness. We say clever. Cleverness, it's a noun. Clever ذكي يعني adjective. It's adjective. It's an adjective. Okay, number 3. Literature. 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 Literature means أدب. Okay, old-fashioned paper. Old-fashioned paper ولا written art. Written art or stonework. Stonework. So stonework, old-fashioned paper or written art. يا لجين, it's a written art. Excellent. يعني أدب أو فن مكتوب. It's the literature. Written art. These meanings are so important. Number 4. Number 4, to develop. To develop. And now we have to. After to always the verb comes infinitive verb. فعل مجرد. So to develop means to find something, to forget something, or to improve something. To improve something or to forget something, to find something. Yes, يا ملك. Excellent. To develop means to improve. Bravo. Means to improve. يعني حتى يطور أو حتى يحسن. To improve means يحسن. To develop means يطور. To find means يجد. Forget ينسى. Okay. Before we move to exercise number 4, which is a homework for you. Exercise number 4, it's a homework. Okay, exercise number 4. Let's move to the reading strategies, facts and opinions. We want to know the differences. يعني الفروقات بين facts and opinions. Okay, facts and opinions. Let's see. Find out the information is accurate or not. Okay. The first thing, find out. يعني جد. Find out. Who can tell me find out? It's a verb plus a preposition. Verb plus a preposition. What do we call it يا ملك? What do we call it? What do we call it? Find out. It's a phrasal verb. Excellent. Phrasal verb. It's a phrasal verb. Verb plus a preposition. So find out the information is accurate. Accurate يعني حقيقي or صحيح. Accurate, it's an adjective or not. Information presented as facts. So now we want to talk about facts. How will you know if this sentence is a fact or it's an opinion? So we will see. Information presented as facts اللي بتكون معروضة على إنها as facts يعني حقائق often has figures عنها دلائل. Like what? Like dates and places. Like dates and places. So when I tell you an information that's presented by date يعني presented يعني هنا معروضة مع مثلا مع تاريخ معين or a place مكان معين, so it's a fact. Okay, it's a fact when it's presented by a date or a place, so it's a fact. These facts can be checked in, and so we want to talk about the facts. Where do we can find them? Okay, where do we can find them? So we can find them in encyclopedia. Okay, encyclopedia. We can find them in an encyclopedia or on the internet. So we can find facts. And we can check them in where? In the encyclopedia or on the internet. Okay, like the Wikipedia and the internet. Okay, so we have talked about facts. Facts always or often presented by dates or places, and they can be checked in an encyclopedia or on the internet. يعني بنستطيع إن هم بيكونوا مسجلين وين بالencyclopedia or on the internet. We can find them there. Okay, now let's move to the opinions. Opinions often have adjectives. So opinions often غالبا شو have adjectives. How يعني I think this is a very beautiful story. I think it's a very beautiful story. It's a fact or an opinion? It's an opinion. Excellent. Because it's my opinion, and I said I think first. The verb think, it's one of the verbs that I say when I want to express about my opinion. لما بدي أجي أحكي عن شعوري بستخدم verbs like think, feel, think or feel, or I guess, or I believe. Okay, and I also provide my opinion by what? By an adjective. بستخدم الصفات adjectives, like it's very good, it's very beautiful story, it's very awesome. Okay, so I use adjectives. So opinions often have adjectives that show opinion, like impressive, like amazing, like good and beautiful. Okay, and verbs that show opinion, الverbs اللي حكينا عنهم like believe, think, guess or feel. This type of writing usually represents somebody's own thoughts or ideas. This type of opinions, حكينا الopinions بتعبر عن شو؟ عن someone's own thoughts or ideas. بتعبر عن أفكار الأشخاص. Thoughts or ideas. Okay, thoughts or ideas. Okay, بتعبر عن أفكارهم، آرائهم، مشاعرهم, feels, thoughts, ideas, and the things that they want to say. Okay, so we have finished our class for today. I hope you enjoyed the class and understood everything. Please answer exercise number 4 that has 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. Write them on your notebook and